We begin in Abuja, where tears and tributes flowed freely as the body of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, was buried, ending an illustrious military career that spanned decades. Lieutenant General Lagbaja was buried today at the National Military Cemetery in Abuja at the age of 56. Funeral proceedings began on Thursday with a service of songs at the Army Headquarters Garrison Parade Ground, Mogadishu Cantonment, Abuja. A funeral service was held this morning at the National Christian Center. Dignitaries attended the event. President Bola Tinubu, Vice President Kashim Shettima, the Acting Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, the Minister of Defense, Abubakar Badaru, and other top government officials and military brass were at the event today.
For me, he was a trusted advisor whose formidable intellect and breadth of knowledge served this nation well. More than that, he was also a man of prudent action who cared more for his nation and for those who served under him than he ever did for himself.
His transition to glory has left an indelible void in the heart of the armed forces, the nation, and in the lives of those who knew and served with him. Lieutenant General Lagbaja exemplified the finest ideals of military service, duty, honor, and country.
The late senior officer proved his mettle as a professional soldier and held numerous key appointments in command, staff, instructional, and operational capacities, which cemented his legacy as a dedicated and outstanding general.
For more updates, a former Director of Public Relations, Nigerian Army, Brigadier General Sani Usman, retired, joins me on the news. Good to have you join us. He joins us from our Abuja studio.
Good evening. Thank you.
Let me start by extending my condolences to you as part of the military family, not just even the military, but the Army family where you served. But let me also ask you, did you ever work with the late Chief of Army Staff? And if you did, what kind of, speak to us about that relationship and then the kind of man that he was.
Thank you so much for the condolence, and I think the condolences for all of us Nigerians, especially those who had the privilege of knowing him or working with him. And to answer your question, actually, I had the privilege of working with him since when he was even a lieutenant colonel, when he was the commanding officer of the Airborne Battalion, which formed the bedrock for the Special Forces Battalion of the Nigerian Army. And that relationship continued as of the time God has called him. And I would rather say it is his passing, it was a monumental blow to our relationship, of course, to the military, particularly the Army and the nation at large. But of course, so much as we love him, God loves him most. But the most important thing is to uphold those legacies that he has left behind, those qualities of hard work, dedication, commitment, and selflessness, and humanity. Because he was somebody that, if you know him, you would have continued to love him because of the personality. He means no words, and he doesn't have double sides. Whatever it is you see in the daytime is what you will see in the night. It's what you will see either in the hidden or in the open, straightforward. And basically, that is the legacy I think we should continue to imbibe, especially at these critical points in time, so that his death will not be in vain.
A great legacy indeed, and a well-accomplished man at 56, having to have attained this height in the history of our nation. But I also wanted to ask you, because you mentioned, you were speaking to his legacy, what happens now to some of the projects he started within the military or the Army?
Well, unlike other, establishment, the military, such things, there is always continuity. You saw what happened. And remember, even before this, we have had the unfortunate incidents where a chief of army staff also died in active service. And of course, the work continues. And the whole essence of it is that everybody is committed towards the attainment of the mission and objective of the army, which is the defense of the territorial integrity of this nation. So whoever in the leadership is in the position of leadership, was to give or is to give strategic directions and guidelines. There are other people that work, and there are institutions and departments that continues to uphold those things. So basically, whatever legacies or projects that you are talking about, they will continue. In fact, they have continued. You remember, even when he left the country, the military service continued, especially, the operational aspect of it. And it will continue, regardless of the circumstances. Basically, that is the essence of it. And we have to give kudos, to the strategic directions and the training and the repositioning of the army. People tend to forget one thing. Since the advent of democratic governance in this country, from 1999 up to 2015, the military was subjected to, what they call transformational process, in which they were, subjected to the nuances of subordinating of military under, civilian authority, attitudinal change and all the rest. So invariably, the institution has been repositioned, to, operate in a democratic setting, and that is why you are seeing what you are saying. And it was
General,
really to the credit.
Because of the limited time that I have, interesting you mentioned the former chief of staff as well, Ibrahim Matahiri, who also died in active service. And if my memory serves me well, you were still in active service at that time yourself. One can only imagine the toll that this takes on the morale.
I left the service that time.
Okay, you had left the service. One can only imagine the toll that this would take on, the morale of the army personnel. What will it take to boost their morale and just so that the work continues?
What it takes actually is to take into cognizance of the fact the value system the leadership represents, how he would have loved to see the army as it were. So when you take that into consideration, you keep on going, because he would have loved you to continue with it, because that is what they paid, they paid the supreme sacrifice for. So they wouldn't have want their legacies to go simply because of what happened that you despair. But it's natural. Everybody will feel the blow, the kind of sense of despondency, losing a colleague, a friend, a leader, someone that you look up to, that you can call, and today he is no more. So it is kind of demoralizing. But the thing that will keep them going, everybody else going, is the fact that the legacies he would have loved to that are left behind to continue. And what are those legacies? I've made mention of it. You have heard what the president said. You have heard what the minister has said about him. You have heard what even the acting chief of army staff has said, and the chief of defense staff. They all testify to the fact that he loves his country. He wants to see a safe and secure Nigeria. So for whoever that cares and love him, will still on those ideals to make sure that whatever that he would have loved to do in person, they continue in that vein. So that will keep people going so much as we continue to remember him and pray for his soul also.
And that for members of his family as well. Thank you so much for your time. Former Director of Public Relations, Nigerian Army, Brigadier General Sani Usman.